I thank the Secretary of State for that response. Now, when the Labour government cut the budget for the listed places of worship scheme, it was suggested that we shouldn't worry because it never runs out of money. Well, it has now run out of money. And as the details for a new scheme have not yet been announced, uncertainty is growing and vital repair work is being postponed or cancelled altogether. So will the government now follow the Conservative lead and commit to fully restoring the budget for the listed places of worship scheme and commit to releasing information about the new scheme as a matter of urgency?
Look, he knows that this is something that is important to this government. These incredible buildings and places of worship stand at the centre of our communities, and it matters deeply that we preserve and protect them. But he will also know that there were serious challenges with the previous scheme, including the fact that his government left the economy in such a parlous state that there was no funding available going forwards, despite their commitments. We have committed to a new scheme that ensures that we can get funding not just to those places that can already raise the money for their own buildings, but to those places where money is in short supply. We are designing that scheme and we will bring forward details of that shortly.
John Whitley.
There are a growing number of ex-footballers suffering from CTE, a form of dementia caused by a repeated heading of the ball. These ex-players have been felt let down by the PFA, which has only provided support for those suffering from CTE once funding from the NHS, social services and family assets have been exhausted, leaving taxpayers rather than football bodies footing the bill for care. What steps is the Minister taking to ensure that our heroes of the game are given appropriate support in their hour of need, and to ensure that competition organisers provide adequate funding for ex-players with CTE?
Minister.
I know this is a concern to members across the House. I've met with and corresponded with a number. It's an issue that is incredibly important to both myself and the Secretary of State, who met with players impacted by this to hear their stories. I will be hosting a roundtable discussion shortly with the football bodies to explore what more can be done. Our priority is for the football authorities to provide greater clarity on funding available and ensure there is enough money available to provide those impacted with the support they need.
Swain.
My honourable friend for Old Bexley has drawn our attention to the fact that Sport England is losing its consultee status. This is at a time when sports clubs are facing business rate increases by as much as 46%. Are ministers alive to the prospect of sporting facilities becoming increasingly attractive building propositions as grey belt?
They are not losing their status. There's a consultation. Myself and the Planning Minister have met a number of times on this. Having committed £400 million to grassroots sports, we of course don't want to see playing fields and grassroots sports reduced.
In coming years, Cambridge, like many other places, will see many new homes being built, but we need to build communities, not just houses, and a cultural component is absolutely key to that. So can the Minister tell us what he's doing to make sure that happens?
Minister.
Yes, Mr Speaker, it's not just about building homes and building economic drivers, it's about building cultural and heritage communities as well. It's fantastic to see so many infrastructure projects taking shape across Cambridgeshire and Cambridge this year. Cambridge already has a fantastic cultural offer, with Arts Council England's national portfolio programme already supporting organisations like the New International Encounter and Oblique Arts, both of which work with communities across the region. I would encourage him to ask all of his cultural organisations to look at the £1.5 billion Arts Everywhere Fund that was announced last month, that record funding, and maybe City or Town of Culture.
Callum Anderson. Rishi Sunak.
Richmond, North Yorkshire is home to brilliant cultural assets like the Richmond Castle, Georgian Theatre, the Station and the Green Howards Museum. It has a unique place in our national story, with a history stretching back to Norman times and a history of successfully putting on community events like Mayfest. Mr Speaker, it is also, this gateway to the Dales is also the UK's most copied place name, the original Richmond with 100 across the world from America to India. So can I ask the Secretary of State to join me in congratulating Richmond Yorkshire's Community Interest Company, who are putting a great bid together to be the UK's town of culture.
Well, can I thank him for his championing of Richmond's Town of Culture bid. I've been following with interest the work that the Community Interest Company is doing there. They've brought together an incredible group of people and gathered huge public support for the bid. And the question that the Mayor of Richmond asked recently was, why not Richmond? I would absolutely concur with those remarks and encourage them to continue.
Peter Swallow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The National Youth Strategy offers us a once-in-a-generation opportunity to improve access to youth services for young people in Bracknell Forest and across the country. Can I ask my right honourable friend what discussions she has had with colleagues in the Ministry of Defence to tie this together with the Strategic Defence Review's target of expanding access to the cadet forces by 30% by 2030?
The 30 by 30 programme seeks to recruit 40,000 more cadets across the UK. We are working with the MOD to do this. They do incredibly important work and he raises an important issue.
Pete Wishaw.
On Saturday, the cream of UK music will gather at Manchester for the annual Brit Awards, and I'm sure the Honourable Lady would like to wish everybody all the best at that. UK music has grown for the 11th consecutive year, and UK artists are starting once again to re-emerge in global markets with the success of Lola Young and Olivia Dean. But there are issues. Artist remuneration, touring in Europe, and the threat of AI continues to emerge as threats. So will she continue to engage with the sector and assure that all these issues are addressed?
Can I thank him for that and say how absolutely delighted I am that the Brits will be held in Manchester this year, and I will of course be in attendance. But he raises a really serious point, and whether it's the work that we're doing on the voluntary levy to get funding into grassroots music venues, or the work that we're doing with the music industry to solve the challenges posed by the AI and copyright issue, he is absolutely right to say that we need to work to support what is not just an incredible industry that brings joy to millions of people all over the world, but something that is one of the UK's best exports.
Final question, Dame Chiomoro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Northern industry built this nation, but the previous government did not care about our industrial heritage. One reason why Newcastle's iconic swing bridge no longer swings. Now, the Minister for Heritage encouraged us to take the steps necessary to safeguard its future in a recent visit, but what help can she provide to support the necessary to get the swing bridge swinging?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I commend my honourable friend's campaign for Newcastle's swing bridge on its 150th anniversary year. I know my honourable friend in the other place has been dealing very closely with her on those issues. I understand Newcastle City Council is leading a feasibility study on returning the bridge to full operation, which should help to understand if and how this magnificent Grade 2 listed building can be, and scheduled monument can be brought back to life. And I share my honourable friend's aspiration to allow the bridge to swing.
Right, thank you. Let the front bench change over. We now come to questions to Church Commissioners, House of Commons Commission and Restoration and Renewal Client Board. We start with Charlie Dewhurst.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Right, question 1 goes to Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, the Restoration and Renewal Client Board has recently published a report providing costed proposals for the R&R programme and a recommended way forward. The key recommendations are to commence a Phase 1 works package, including enabling works and the preparation of temporary accommodation, including a long-term resilience chamber. Reduce the number of delivery options from 4 to 2, with a final decision on a preferred option required by 2030. The next step, Mr. Speaker, is for parliamentary debates to be held so that members of both houses can consider the Client Board's recommendations and decide how to progress. The R&R team hold regular briefings and tours and detailed Q&A sessions, which the honourable gentleman may find of interest.
Charlie Dewhurst.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, the London 2012 Olympics, 7 years, 7 billion. The World Trade Center rebuild in New York, 7 years, 3.9 billion. The restoration of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, less than 5 years, less than 1 billion. And yet here we are with the cheapest option available to us, moving out for 24 years and 16 billion. I am sorry, but it stinks. It really does. And we need to look again at the entire proposals for the restoration and renewal of this place. Restoration is fine, and yes, we should all operate in a safe workplace. But frankly, I would ask the honourable member to go back to his board and look again at this entire proposal.
Next,
Mr. Speaker, can I agree with the honourable member that we should make much faster progress on this project? However, he talks about Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a much smaller footprint than our palace at Westminster. The bulk of the construction costs relate to the replacement and upgrade of mechanical, power, water and heating infrastructure, improvements to fire safety and the controlled management of asbestos and repaired stonework. Not enough has been invested in our palace over the years. Much more needs to be done. It needs to be done at good speed, but I accept the point to go further. Let's try and take members of both houses with us, however.
Jessica.
Question number 2, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Church remains a major investor in deprived communities, and funding for periods of 2026 to 2028 has reached a record £430 million, focusing on strengthening ministry and providing long-term support for lowest income communities. And this is in addition to the £91 million already spent during the periods between 2023 and 25 in dioceses, urban and post-industrial and coastal communities. And just recently, Mr. Speaker, at the last General Synod meeting, it marked the 40th anniversary of the landmark Faith in the City report into tackling structural deprivation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the last few weeks, I visited Winton and Parkstone Community Pantry at the Winton Christadelphian Church, supported by Fairshare, and the Sanctuary Project at St Andrew's Church in Kinson, which has a Trussell Trust supported food bank. Now, both churches go out of their way to support our community members in need. So can the Commissioner join me in paying tribute to the churches and their volunteers, and will she outline what more they can do to support the cost of living and isolation in our communities?
Mr. Speaker, the churches are cornerstones of all of our communities, and I want to congratulate the clergy, volunteers and congregation of St Andrew's Church in Kinson and the Winston Christ Adelphian Church for their hard work and contributions supporting the community pantry and the Sanctuary Project. Mr. Speaker, across the country, churches are delivering around 31,000 community projects, including 8,000 food banks, 4,000 parent and carer groups, 5,000 lunch clubs and 3,000 community cafes. These programmes offer practical support, companionship and advice to those facing hardship, demonstrating the Church's ongoing commitment to serving and standing with all of our communities nationwide.
Good job.
Thank you. St Nicholas's Church in Shepperton, in my Spelthorne constituency, made an application under the listed places of worship scheme to get the VAT back, 16 grand on essential repairs that they have made. And they got an auto reply saying that the scheme has been used up and there's no money left. So will the, on behalf of the Church Commissioners, could they please entreaty the government to look again at this application and see whether we can get the VAT reclaim made?
I'm not quite sure it's relevant, actually. Yeah, don't worry about it. Well, let's move on. Douglas McAllister.
Please, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Whilst church attendance statistics for 2025 are still being collated, early indications suggest that an increase in attendance at Advent and Christmas services. Indeed, churches have reported fuller congregations for carol services, especially for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day services, and this is consistent with the upward seasonal patterns seen over the recent years.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Long-term trends suggest a decline in regular weekly church attendance. However, there was a rise in church attendance across the UK this Christmas, and I enjoyed visits to various churches in Western Bartonshire, not least the Hope Community Church in Clydebank and Dalmuir Barclay Church. Can I ask the Second Church Estates Commissioner, Christmas and Easter are often the two occasions when people consider attending church. What can the church do to attract new worshippers as we approach Easter?
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my honourable friend for his question. As I said, anecdotal evidence does suggest that attendance is growing, especially in urban areas and among young people. Now, the Church of England is producing a large number of resources for major festivals, in addition to their regular Everyday Faith app. Do download if you haven't, and online services the Church already has. Now, also the Church is producing a variety of resources for the Lent and Easter period, including booklets and reflection activities for individual groups. And I would just encourage all colleagues across the House, as we are in this Lent season leading into Christmas, if you haven't already, do consider visiting some of your local churches during this festive period.
Jim Shum.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Honourable Lady for her response? The trends seem to indicate that amongst the Generation Z, the young people coming through, there's a trend of upwards of attendance at churches, which is good news. We all know that the greatest story ever told is the birth of the Lord Jesus on December the 25th, and the fact that he was crucified and died for us to forgive us our sins and get us to heaven. That's a wonderful story. The Honourable Lady knows that. I know that. Indeed, I think everybody in this House knows that. And we should be telling many people about that. But the trends seem to indicate an upward trend of attendance. Is that not good news for the greatest story ever told?
I couldn't have put it better myself, Mr. Speaker. It is the best good news story that must be shared, and we will continue to lift up our voices and share that great story.
That's awesome.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with your permission, I would like to group question 4 and 7. Now, despite the horrific and truly devastating situation in Palestine, Christian communities continue to be steadfast and resilient in the face of war and destruction. Last month, the bishops of Chelmsford, Gloucester and Norwich made a joint visit, and their visit highlighted the severe pressures facing Christian communities across the region. Now, sadly, attacks and intimidation continue, including the destruction of farms and olive groves, and the IDF and settler militia attempted to shamefully obstruct pastoral visits made by the Archbishop of York to Christian families on the West Bank during his last visit. Now, we know that despite all these atrocities, it's so important that we continue to have long-term engagement and supportive visits to this region.
Mr. Speaker, the Israeli government's new vetting rules have halted much humanitarian work in Gaza. The Palestinian Church Committee has urgently appealed to churches worldwide to intervene so aid can continue. With local churches and faith-based agencies stepping up their support, can the Commissioner update us on how the Church is strengthening this appeal and helping ensure Gaza is not left without vital assistance?
Mr. Speaker, can I just commend my honourable friend for being such a strong voice on this issue. Now, the Church shares the concerns about how the hostile new vetting restrictions and how that has really disrupted humanitarian operations in Gaza, which are adversely affecting both church-based agencies and also international aid programmes. The Church continues to work closely with the Diocese of Jerusalem and partner agencies to ensure aid reaches those that most need it. Now, the Anglican presence in Gaza centres around the Al Ali Hospital, which despite significant damage, remains one of the only functioning health facilities in North Gaza.
Tricia Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pizzaballa, recently said in relation to Palestine that peace and reconciliation are beautiful concepts, but they risk remaining mere slogans if they are not accompanied today by concrete actions, gestures and testimonies that physically demonstrate the possibility of rebuilding trust. Does the Commissioner agree with me that Christian churches are ideally placed to work with other faith communities to lead that rebuilding of trust going forward?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my honourable friend really makes an important point, because it's about how the Church works across its faith-based organisations to be the leaders really in terms of peace. But I should say that the Church does work closely with the Diocese of Jerusalem and the Anglican Communion agencies, providing education, healthcare and employment across the region, other countries, ensuring that there is cooperation across the entire Christian community. And as I outlined in my earlier point, for example, in Gaza, the Church is working with the Anglican Communion there in terms of their support for the Al Ali Hospital. I would just also point out some of the work that they are doing in the West Bank. And this assistance is being delivered through the diocesan schools and the Princess Basma Centre and also local health centres. But through financial support, advocacy and coordination, with church working hard to maintain medical care, humanitarian assistance and pastoral support for all Christians and Palestinians affected by this crisis.
Number 5, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, members and their teams should be supported to manage and address the increasing volume and complexity of work being placed on us all. Managing email inbox is a huge task, we all know. Parliamentary Digital Services has been working with members to understand how we could harness technology to help us filter, prioritise and manage our correspondence, our casework. I know that the Parliamentary Digital Services are happy to further support my honourable friend in that work.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable friend for that answer. And I believe that Parliament can and indeed must use AI to improve our productivity, but it must be used securely, ethically, effectively and in the public interest. And with a poll by Brunel University saying that 80% of the public reject the idea of AI assisting parliamentarians or replacing our judgment, can I ask him what progress has been made on shaping Copilot, which is the only AI we are allowed to use, to reflect Parliament's priorities rather than Microsoft's, and specifically on the inbox management that I've raised and he has mentioned.
Nick Smith. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honourable friend is right to keep on raising this issue. The foundation of the guidance to members on the use of AI is the need to have a human in the loop. The Parliamentary Digital Service is in ongoing discussions with Microsoft to shape the use of Copilot to meet the members' needs. Our digital service must continue looking at the potential applications of AI to support all of our work, so either Copilot or another solution from elsewhere can be tested for all of our benefit. Can I also say to the honourable member, if she wishes, she can join our committee the next time we meet the PDS management team to look at how we can better support members.
Right, Dave McHillier.
Number 6, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Client Board's recent report recommends a way forward for restoration and renewal. This contains Phase 1 works, including 7 years foundational works for the full programme. These preparatory works can begin once we have approval from both houses. A final decision on the preferred delivery option is required from both houses no later than 2030, and the main R&R works could begin in 2032.
Mr. Speaker, in modern times, this has been being discussed since 2016, so we're on our 10th anniversary of discussing this issue, which has actually been an issue for 40 years. And I disagree with the Honourable Member for Bridlington and the Wolds about going back to the drawing board again. And I wonder if my right honourable friend has any idea of when the vote will be, because if it's in 2030, that's after the next election. And I can see the same old arguments about we have to revisit this being rehashed again and again, where we have a building riddled with asbestos, at risk of fire, and something, frankly, that once works begin, my staff and I will no longer be in the building because of safety issues.
Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, can I wholeheartedly agree with my right honourable friend? She's right, we must make progress. We have these costed proposals ahead of us now. The work is necessary. We have an iconic building, home of our Parliament, but it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We currently spend £1.5 million a week maintaining and repairing the palace, and there's a considerable cost involved with every year of delaying delivery. We must move forward. I hope the Leader of the House will let us know when we can have the discussion and debate on this important matter.
Please, Mr. Speaker.
O'Dova.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Church of England has expressed heartfelt sorrow and regret for anyone who have been hurt. The national church institutions are engaging with a range of stakeholders, including, and most importantly, those people who were directly affected.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Tuesday, the Education Select Committee held a public evidence session on historic forced adoptions and heard how, over many decades, unmarried mothers were shamed and coerced into giving up their babies for adoption, a practice driven by the policies of the state and delivered by charities and religious organisations, including the Church of England. Do the Church Commissioners agree that victims, mothers and adopted children are owed a full and formal apology for the Church from the Church for its role in this scandal. I heard what my honourable friend said, but only a formal apology will begin to heal the wounds of this horrible scandal.
Marcia de Cordova.
Mr. Speaker, the Church recognises the profound pain experienced by many mothers, adoptees affected by historic forced adoption practices, and it is sobering to hear the accounts from mothers and their children whose lives have been adversely affected by what happened to them in maternity homes, including those that are linked to the Church of England. But I just want to reiterate to my honourable friend that the Church has expressed its heartfelt sorrow and regret for any person that really has been impacted by this practice. And I would just add to that, if my honourable friend is willing, I'm very happy to meet with him.
Jane Carpin.
Question number 9, please, Mr. Speaker.
Thanks, Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given her journey from Cornwall, I can quite understand why my honourable friend asks this question. The Commission recently endorsed recommendations from our participation team to improve the school visit booking process and the use of our travel subsidy. Schools from her area will have extra time to apply. We want to encourage greater participation from schools furthest away from Westminster by increasing capacity through our education service.
Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm so pleased that these schools furthest from Westminster are going to be prioritised with time to apply for those parliamentary trips. It takes 6 hours at least to get there for Cornish schools, which means they have to take a number of days in London, which is why their visits are rare and often in the summer term when they interfere less with formal exams. Could the Chair confirm that children from remote and deprived areas will be helped to surmount those barriers that they have to get them to this place?
Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, the new booking process, which will be launched in September, will ensure that regions are allocated visit opportunities to ensure no region accesses more than their fair share. Consideration has been given to the circumstances of Band C schools, those furthest away from Westminster, who have a clear preference for summer term access due to the long distances that they travel. The education team will weight Band C visit opportunities to favour summer term so that the booking opportunities best meet those schools' needs.
Rinda Just.
Number 10, please, Mr. Speaker.
Marcia de Cordova.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Anglican Communion is deeply alarmed by the worsening humanitarian catastrophe described by regional bishops as almost unbearable. Christian communities are among the hardest hit and are facing mass killings, sexual violence, famine, and millions of people have been displaced. Churches and properties have been seized, burnt and destroyed. And the Archbishop of Sudan briefed MPs and bishops before Christmas and said the conflict has created the world's largest hunger and displacement crisis.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this year I attended the Open Doors World Watch List launch at the request of my Wolverhampton West constituents who were gravely concerned about the situation in Sudan, and the event confirmed the extreme levels of persecution against Christians in that country, with reports of forced conversions, physical punishment, destruction of churches and sexual violence. Given that the conflict situation in Sudan seems to be getting worse, with the country rising nearly 10 places on the Open Doors watch list in the last 5 years, can my honourable friend please outline what steps are being taken to supply international aid and support to the Christians being persecuted in Sudan?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I attended the launch of the Open Doors watch list last month, and I agree the testimonies that were shared by those who have fled persecution was both powerful and moving. Now, the Bishop of Leeds has visited Sudan extensively, and he has repeatedly raised these issues facing the Sudanese people in the other place, and also has done so directly with government. And he held a debate specifically calling on the government and international community to secure a ceasefire, to ensure humanitarian access and protect civilians. Both the Diocese of Leeds and Salisbury hold a formal companion league with the Diocese of Sudan. But, Mr. Speaker, the Church stands with the Sudan Christian population and all who are suffering, and calls for a renewed global attention to this horrific conflict.
Right, that completes those questions. We now move on to business questions. Acting Shadow Leader of the House, John Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Leader of the House give us the forthcoming business?
Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday, the 2nd of March, we'll have the second reading of the Representation of the People Bill. Tuesday, the 3rd of March, my right honourable friend, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, will make a spring forecast statement, followed by consideration of Lord's amendments to the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Bill. Wednesday, the 4th of March, will be Estimates Day, the fourth allotted day. There will be debates on estimates relating to the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, the Ministry of Defence and the Department for Business and Trade. At 7 p.m, the House will be asked to agree all outstanding estimates. Thursday, the 5th of March, proceedings on the Supply and Appropriation, Anticipation and Adjustments number 2 bill, followed by a general debate on contributions of Commonwealth troops in World War I, followed by a debate on a motion on the future of palliative care. The subject for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee, and Friday, the 6th of March, the House will not be sitting. The provisional business for the week commencing the 9th of March includes Monday, the 9th of March, consideration of Lord's amendments to the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill. Tuesday, the 10th of March, second reading of the Courts and Tribunals Bill. Wednesday, the 11th of March, remaining stages of the Finance number 2 bill. Thursday, the 12th of March, general debate to mark International Women's Day. And on Friday, the 13th of March, the House will not be sitting.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a pleasure to be doing business questions and responding to the right honourable gentleman who, like myself but more grand, was a chief whip and much respected and revered and sometimes feared by members of this House. And I'll be honest, Mr. Speaker, even I was terrified of him, and we're not even in the same party. So it is a pleasure to be here today. And as we reach the 4th anniversary of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, it is important that we restate our unwavering support for the people of Ukraine. We must never abandon them. And I know it's been a challenging few weeks for the Labour Party. We've all been there. They've come to realize what the British people long understood, that we have a Prime Minister who has U-turned on every principle he held and every promise he made. A Prime Minister elected on a promise not to raise taxes on working people. Then he raised them. A Prime Minister who promised to be pro-business, but and he has become the most anti-business Prime Minister of modern times. A Prime Minister who promised to raise standards in public life, but is presiding over an ever-growing mountain of government scandals. Yeah. The grown-ups are back in charge, no more sleaze. How's that going for you? Whilst the Prime Minister stumbles on, his ministers are now out of control and out of their depth. And the British people are paying the price. Let me start with the Justice Secretary. This week, we saw he intends to pursue his reckless plan to cut jury trials, a principle that has existed for over 800 years, a principle he wants to wreck without proper debate in the House. So will the Leader of the House give me as a categoric assurance that the changes to the Justice Secretary wants to make, that we will have time to debate in the House before we get to May? And now, let me turn to the Education Secretary of State and Equalities Minister. There can be no justification for the delay in providing guidance on single-sex spaces. The Supreme Court ruled a year ago that biological sex defines a woman, a fact that most people knew without needing a judge to tell them. I don't know if the Education Secretary, deep down, still doesn't agree, but the inaction must end. So will the Leader of the House confirm when the guidance will be laid before the House and grant a debate in government time on the unacceptable delays and risk it has proved to women and girls? Now let me turn to the Chancellor. This week, the Chancellor's entrepreneurship advisor shamefully said that Britain doesn't need more restaurants, laying bare what we already knew. This government is determined to tax our hospitality businesses to extinction. So, will the Chancellor apologise for her advisor and sack her, or back her and agree with her anti-hospitality stance? Will the Leader of the House grant a debate in government time on our pubs and hospitality so that members, at least on this side of the House, can have a debate and show their support for the hospitality sector? And we want to move forward making sure that this crippling tax burden is removed from the hospitality sector moving forward. And Mr. Speaker, it is now clear that we have a Prime Minister with an out-of-control government buried deep in scandal after scandal, failure after failure, broken promise after broken promise. A Prime Minister without principle, a Prime Minister without purpose, a Prime Minister without a future, and the British people deserve better.
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the Honourable Lady for her questions and for her warm welcome. But let me gently warn her that soft soap will get her absolutely nowhere. Let me join with her in expressing our continued support for Ukraine. This week marks 4 years since Putin's full-scale invasion. The government remains steadfast in its support, as did the previous government, for the people of Ukraine. And this week we announced a landmark sanctions package against Russia. We will, Mr. Speaker, stand with Ukraine as long as it takes to achieve a just and lasting peace, which underlines the importance of NATO and, frankly, the foolishness of any party in this House who wants us to leave NATO. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will wish to congratulate Team GB on their most successful Winter Olympic Games ever, and send our best wishes to Paralympics GB ahead of the Paralympic Winter Games starting on the 6th of March. Mr. Speaker, I also want to send my condolences to the family and friends of Harry Barnes, who passed away last week. He diligently served as MP for North East Derbyshire for nearly 20 years. I also wish to send my condolences to the family and friends of Martin Butler, who was the co-founder of the Terence Higgins Trust. And as so, Martin supported the Trust for 5 decades and fought for LGBT rights, and it's undoubted, Mr. Speaker, that his legacy will live on. This week, Mr. Speaker, Ofgem has announced that electricity bills will come down for millions of households as a result of the action that we took in the budget. And as we've announced, Mr. Speaker, we have announced major changes to the SEND system. We're putting children and young people first. Every child with additional needs will benefit from a better, more tailored support with SEND support in every school and community. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to wish all those celebrating a happy St David's Day on Sunday. Let me now turn to the remarks of the Honourable Lady, and let me begin with her, I thought, fairly churlish remarks about the Prime Minister, because what she failed to mention, because he is doing such a good job, I'm pleased the honourable gentleman acknowledges that, that inflation is falling, that interest rates have fallen 6 times since the general election, retail sales are up, wages are up, and the economy is growing. So I think that is a record upon which we should be proud. And let me turn to the question of the Prime Minister's integrity and just draw the comparison, Mr. Speaker, to the integrity of my right honourable friend with the fact that the Honourable Lady was one of the very last people in the redoubt with Boris Johnson, not joining others in holding the former Prime Minister to account. Let me turn now to the Courts Bill. I've already announced, Mr. Speaker, the second reading of the Courts Bill. There will be plenty of time to debate. I will bring forward the next stages in the usual way. And similarly, with the guidance that she refers to, we will be bringing forward, we've committed to bringing forward that guidance, and we will do, and there will be time for a debate of these important matters, but it is important that we get it right. In terms of hospitality, Mr. Speaker, there will be further opportunities to debate these issues when the Finance Bill returns, but let me just remind the House that under the previous government, 7,000 pubs closed, and she refers to that as the support of her party for pubs. Goodness me, Mr Speaker, what would it be if they hadn't supported those pubs? But we're not going to take any lessons about hospitality from the party opposite.
Chris Blow.
Speaker. My constituent Bethany is 27 and has spent time in various residential care units with at-home support provided by Worcestershire County Council. During that time, she's experienced unexplained injuries and neglect, resulting in health problems and weight loss. Her family have submitted various complaints about this poor treatment, but the council will not provide a final response to their complaints and have not replied to my office's multiple requests for this to happen. In fact, they are still trying to reclaim fees from the family whilst the complaint remains unresolved. Can the Leader of the House advise me on how best to escalate this distressing case when the County Council refused to engage?
Leader.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I first of all express my deepest sympathies for the case that my honourable friend raises. His constituent, and indeed all of our constituents, deserve better than what he has outlined. And if he sends me the specifics, Mr Speaker, I'll make sure that it's taken up with the relevant minister.
Will be Dean Liberal Democrat spokesman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And can I join the Leader of the House in his comments he made about Ukraine? It's clear that Vladimir Putin underestimated Ukrainians' resilience. He underestimated Europe's willingness to stand by Ukraine, and he will find out that we will all stand by Ukraine right to the end of this war. I'd like to move on to the cost of living, Mr Speaker, and how it's been piling pressure on people for years. And this has meant that people have been plunged into debt. And they're into debt via various bodies. Citizens' Advice and people like Step Change offer advice on how to get out of those debt situations. One of the things that they commonly raise with me, and I see it in my own inbox as well, is the aggressive debt recovery actions of those in the public sector. So if you fall behind on a council tax payment, often councils are quite quick to cancel your existing payment plans and order that you pay a fine, and that get to the stage of bailiffs quite quickly, often within 6 weeks. And this is different to what happens in the private sector, where they're more heavily regulated. They need to show more meaningful engagement with residents, offer payment plans, and get to court action much later. I see it again in the case of Department of Work and Pensions. We've already spoken in this place about the carers' allowance overpayment scandal and the way in which those people were chasing payments. But I've had examples in my inbox in the last couple of weeks of somebody who rose to £10,000 worth of debt with DWP due to errors on DWP's part. And they started getting chased aggressively for this. And of course, they can automatically deduct payments from universal credit almost immediately, up to 15%, leaving the resident with no understanding of what's happened in the past, let alone how they're going to manage going forward. And of course, there are new powers that the government's seeking to be able to go into bank accounts directly and take payments. And it's going to be extremely worrying given the errors that DWP have made in the past. And so this doesn't only relate to DWP, I think this relates to all public sector bodies, so I'm not quite sure who the relevant minister to put this to is, but I would appreciate if the Leader of the House could engage with the government and see if they can get a more sympathetic and understanding debt recovery process across public sector organisations.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I first of all thank the honourable gentleman for his remarks on Ukraine. It is important that every party in this House stands with Ukraine. It's a pity, however, that is not necessarily the view shared by everyone in this House, and that is a disgrace. He's right to raise this matter of debt recovery, because debt recovery must be fair to everyone, and if you fall into debt, you must be treated fairly and supported to get back on your feet. That's why we are reforming the enforcement sector to safeguard debtors and creditors alike, whilst building a more sustainable future. It is a question of balance, however, Mr Speaker, because any Secretary of State has an obligation to protect public funds and to ensure that wherever possible overpayment and penalty debt is recovered. But they should be recovered as quickly and cost effectively as possible without causing undue financial hardship to debtors. So I will draw his remarks to the attention, starting with DWP ministers, so that they've heard what he said here today.
Natasha Adams.
I recently had the pleasure of visiting Paloma Convent Girls' School in my constituency, where students are campaigning on the vital issue of debt relief for developing countries and what this nation can do to tackle it. They highlighted the stark reality that 3.3 billion people live in nations that spend more on servicing debt than on health, infrastructure and education.
So will the Leader of the House join me in thanking the teachers, students and staff at Coloma for their work to highlight this issue, and will he make time for a debate on the growing global debt crisis and the UK's role in supporting meaningful debt relief?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I thank the Honourable Friend for raising the work of Coloma Convent Girls' School and their campaign, and certainly join her in thanking the teachers and staff of the school. The Government fully recognises, Mr Speaker, the pressure that many developing countries face, and we are committed to delivering an international financial system that supports development needs and helps countries address their debt vulnerabilities. And I'll ensure that the Foreign Secretary hears my honourable friend's words.
Bob Blackman, Chair of the Backbench.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Leader for announcing the business for the next 2 weeks. And can I make a plea to him and to you, Mr Speaker, for the Estimates Day debates? We had 7 excellent bids, had to choose 3 of them, but time will be compressed in those debates. So I hope that a very high bar for UQs will be initiated and the Government will not put on statements on that particular day.
Help! Don't put as many in from the Government side.
I don't think I've submitted a request for a UQ for a very long time, Mr Speaker.
Next week.
I might do next week. But in addition, the business in Westminster Hall on Tuesday will be a debate on strengthening community cohesion, which might be quite appropriate after the by-election today, followed by, on Thursday the 5th of March, 2 debates, one on the importance of local museums, followed by a debate on World Book Day. On Tuesday the 10th of March, a debate on important sale of fur and fur-related products. And on Thursday the 12th, the Liaison Committee have a Northern Ireland debate, followed by a debate on the government support for carnivals. And on Tuesday the 17th of March, will be a debate on productivity and economic growth in the East Midlands. Now, Mr Speaker, in business questions, there's frequently raised the unfair service charges that are implemented by companies across the UK. But I think I've got one that tops the lot, because in my constituency we have a development called Stanmore Place, which has a mixture of housing association managed property and 798 private leased properties. This is managed by St Edward's Homes and have a managing company called R&R. Now, due to the incompetence of R&R in the management company, they failed to actually deliver the costs of heating for the shared services for the last 10 years. However, they've now decided to re-invoice those individuals who've paid their bills. Going back, they've generously said that they won't invoice them from 2015 to 2021, but they will invoice them from 21 to 26. Now, apparently, Ofgem are changing the rules so that this will not be allowed in future. They can only go back 12 months, which is reasonable. However, Ofgem are only going to change this in 2027. So at the moment, in this particular case, and across the UK, we are going to have the Wild West show in terms of back billing. So I know that the Government is looking, obviously, at service charges, particularly on leasehold reform. Could the Leader, therefore, encourage ministers to make sure that this practice is outlawed immediately?
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Speaker. And can I thank the Honourable Gentleman for his work on the committee, his committee, and indeed the work of the committee. I'm pleased to hear that a number of very good bids came forward for Estimates Day, so to that extent the system is working. But as he will know, it is a question of balance. We want to make full use of the time on that day. And therefore having 3 debates may be challenging in terms of time, but it certainly should ensure that we use the whole of that time. And previously that was not always the case, but I have heard his request around statements. It's a matter for the Government, and I will see what we can do. Let me turn now to service charges, and as he has said, Mr Speaker, we are determined to take action to address unfair and unjustified